Okay, welcome back to the final video feedback before all hands on DAQ. And the last thing we're going to talk about is testing the tests. So we've gone on, what is DAQ, installing running DAQ, configuring running, the dashboard, the real device, troubleshooting, which will be a later one, or rather one previous. Digging into DAQ, digging into deeper, we've written a very simple and entirely needless test. And now we're going to focus on how, if you are a person fixing a test, or if you are writing a new test, adding something new into the subset directory, adding a new testing module, and let's say that you want to open up a pull request or something to the faucet directory, not to the faucet repository, rather, to all these directories within this repository. Then you're going to need to open a pull request. And one of the prerequisites for getting a pull request pulled in to this repository is to pass all the tests. And what do I mean by tests? I mean DAQ's integration tests. So the integration tests, you can find them here. So in the directory, all the DAQ directories, directory called testing, and there is a test underscore orgs.sh. There's a test underscore base, there's a test many, there's a test stack, there's a test topo, and there's some utilities for these tests right here. And where those tests actually run can be on your local machine, but they're also run in the continuous integration system that DAQ uses, which is sort of a helper to GitHub in a sense. And for that we use Travis CI, which is incredibly well sort of linked in with GitHub. You can sign in with GitHub, etc., etc. The integration tests that are run are these ones here. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to focus on the orgs integration test. Orgs meaning auxiliary, which again refers to the idea that there is a DAQ proper, so DAQ being the framework, and there are a few tests included within DAQ. There's the test backnet, fail, hold, mudgy, pass, and ping, and then everything else within the subset folder down here. Those are the auxiliary tests that are tested by this test orgs.sh script. If you want to change anything to do with how DAQ the framework works, then there are different tests here, which you can have a look at yourself, apart from that one, because that is completely empty, that you can test to see if DAQ is still orchestrating containers correctly, if you want to update the version of Faucet or something to make sure that Faucet still works, and that'll be other ones. But for the purpose of this, we're just going to focus on testorgs.sh. So you can either run an integration test locally. You may stumble across a script. Not there. Stumble across a script called test DAQ. And again, you can have a look at what this does. Generally, we're setting up. Well, if there is no environment variable called DAQ underscore test, then exit. And there's some other things as well, and it kind of depends on a locally installed Open vSwitch controller, which is in a directory called, the initd system within your. So if you have, if on your laptop where you're running DAQ, you have Open vSwitch installed, then you can likely install, then you can run test underscore DAQ. But yes, as I say here, so this script here needs environment variables. So for example, if I was to try and run right now, test DAQ like that, it would first of all complain that DAQ test isn't defined. Okay, so let's define that. And we want to run the orgs test. So the only variable we need to define here is AUX. So let's do that. And we, run that and says, oh, okay, so there's something going on with a faucet commit. That looks a bit confusing. And then directory inst exists. So okay, so let's be optimistic. Let's ignore this for a bit, and let's just remove our inst directory. Oh no, can't do that. So let me just do my own all command. So I own it again. Let's remove that, and then let's once again just try and run that. Okay. Oh well, our local directory exists as well. Okay, so let's just move our local directory and call this local.old or something. Okay, so we should be able to run the testing script now. Already, this is becoming a bit unwieldy. And then, oh, okay, so we've got some stuff, all things are going. Well, this is actually going better than I expected. But what's happening now is just loads of oh dear. So there we go. So things went horribly wrong very quickly because I cancelled the script. But what is happening here is a load of extra stuff that is basically designed for Travis to do. So let's just go back to where we were. So that local directory that it created there was probably something to do with copying over the test site. Yeah. So throughout most of these videos, we've been using a configuration which looks kind of similar to this. Just get those side by side. Get you over there. So those kind of look like the same, pretty much, except for in our local configuration, we have a different site description, all hands on DAQ. The one that was copied over then is multi-device all. And we've got our GCP cred to do some stuff for us. Okay, but let's ignore that for a second because the point I wanted to get across was that if you were to run the DAQ or script and then kind of appease it by doing what it asks you to do, it's going to mess up your local configuration completely, and permissions are going to go haywire. Let's just move local back to local. Let's test that everything still runs okay, which it should do. Yes. So yeah. So the point is, so it needs environment variables, it needs other things, and it's not entirely recommended because that bin test underscore DAQ script is kind of mainly designed for Travis to run within Travis. Another thing you can do is simply just run the auxiliary script itself without triggering this test underscore DAQ. So this is the script here that executes the integration test. I won't go over what it does. There are some vaguely helpful comments which kind of attempt to explain the flow of what the script is doing. But once again, if we just kill this run here, okay, so let's just run that. So let's go testing, testing, and then tests orgs dot sh. So need to run as root. Okay, not too bad. Let's run it as root. Okay, so this is looking slightly better. This is all good. We didn't have to rename anything or do anything silly. Still building some Java stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that's looking fairly good. Yep. Yep. Okay, I'll just leave this for a bit longer and see what this Gradle build is actually doing, because so the other thing that I want to say to do with this is that it's still going to kind of mess up your local build. Well, not your local build, it's going to mess up your local environment where you're trying to develop either a test module or DAQ itself. So right now we're going through some schema validation. And right now we are running PyLint on the DAQ framework Python software. And that should all run because I haven't, well, that linting result should be a-okay, green, because I haven't changed any of those files. Let's get us that work. Carrying on. Yep. Thinking about runner. Topology. Yes. Right. And this is my point here. What test orgs sh does is it rebuilds everything, because if we want to really write a solid integration test that tests everything from end to end, we need to make sure that DAQ will build all of our tests that we're including. We need to make sure that it runs a test that tests the environment in which DAQ is running, but which is close to a fresh environment as possible, just to be kind of sure. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to stop that because the point is that if we run the test orgs sh script, then it'll kind of mess with our local directory. I get confused at that point. That's just what I do. But if you want to do that, then that is absolutely fine. There is a lot of documentation on that exact flow. If we have a look in the docs folder, once again, I'll always refer back to the docs folder because it's the most up-to-date area for documentation. If you scroll around to the bottom here, then there is an example integration testing workflow, which you can have a look at. Which what this is basically saying is, okay, so I've written a new test in the subset folder, or I've done something, and I'm going to run. I'm going to generate some results from that test run, and then I'm going to copy over those results, and that will become the new integration test, etc. So you can do that. That's one way to do it. The way that I have done it in the past is to let Travis do the heavy lifting. Because as I was just saying, if you run it locally, then you're going to have to build everything again, and you're going to have to build all the tests again, because the integration test tests all of every test within the orgs kind of area, which is every test that is included within a subset. So if you just written a needless test, a test underscore needless, then you don't really need to build the connection and build the cloud and build the backnet and build pen test and build security and build switches just to test your needless test. So as I said before, I've been working in a fork of DAQ, which is on my own GitHub account, and we're working on this branch here. And I've committed, I don't know how many times. I've committed a couple of times, 4 or something. And even so, every time I've committed, Travis has been running tests in the background. So Travis has done the building for me. Travis has run my test, and we can see here that it's passed gloriously. But it's only passed because we haven't added anything new to our integration test. If we add new code, if we add a new test, if we add a new testing module, then we need to tell DAQ that it exists. And if we just have a look at the results here, then you can see basically a log of what is defined by the travis.yaml file. So the Travis config is defined by this .travis.yaml file here. Sudo is required, and the distribution that Travis is going to use to execute his tests is Bionic, Ubuntu, Bionic Beaver. We need a Docker service. This is just Travis specific config. We need Java. We need the JDK9 in an open capacity. We need Open vSwitch. Our install step, setup DAQ, which is what you can see at the start here. We're installing some stuff right about here, and then we are running that test script that we defined just before. The environment variables that DAQ is expecting here are defined down here. There's kind of a matrix of environment variables, and then so we're going to run that. That's what we're going to do. So if we scroll right down to the bottom, and we use this handy little widget which scrolls really fast, we can see that yes, bin test DAQ has exited with command 0. And as I was saying before, the auxiliary tests that are tested are things, basically everything apart from the switch module. So the backnet version. So what we need to add to this are our expected result lines from our needless test and some fails and stuff. And where these are, so all Travis is doing is running the config as we've said it, and we're running test DAQ, and we're running in this particular case of the orgs integration test. We are going through this. So this is a setup step. We are running DAQ just about here, doing a test run. We're capturing the logs from all of these things. We're showing the full logs. And then finally, at the bottom here, we are comparing what we expect the, the test to produce, which is this, which is kind of the subset of the logs. So test.orgs.out is so this at the very end of the Travis log, which is the same as would have been printed out if I would have completed my local execution of testing test orgs.sh. This would have printed out the same thing eventually. This is what it printed out, and then we are comparing the output of this particular build of DAQ with this test orgs.out. And if our output is the same as our expected output.out, then the test passes. But at the bottom here, what I need to do is, first thing, I need to add my expected outputs from my new tests. So our last report that was generated. There we go. So we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to fire another run with my current config. My current config. So I'm going to do a build and run, and I'm going to pause because it's going to take a while. Okay, so we're back, and my run, after doing all the things that I said not to do, has completed, and we have a result right here for our single new module, which is module needless. It's a needless module. So there are a few things we need to do to add it to the integration test properly, and the main thing is back in our MISC test site folder. So once again, if you just have a little look at what testing orgs.sh actually does, so I'm focusing on. So we do some setup stuff, mod ACL tests, and we do some testing schema stuff. Some helper functions here to help us modularize our testing code a little bit, and then we are copying everything from MISC test site into the inst folder, and we're also setting up here our site path to be inst test site. What that means is that everything that's currently in MISC, so MISC test site here, this is the site that travelers will use to execute our integration tests. So if we have a look at our system.conf, which is what's actually generated here, then we have a look, and then we've got to add our tests to the system.conf that's within Travis. So if we have a look at that, we can see that basically our test config and our site path, what this is going to do is it's going to use this all tests thing here, because that's within. Ooh, is that correct? Let me just refresh my memory, actually. Is that true? Let's just go through it. So we're going to copy in all of our device types. We're going to copy in that. We're going to copy in the pics. We're going to copy in thing. We're going to copy in misc system all.conf into our local system.conf, and then we're going to add these extra things. So if we have a look at misc system all, misc system all.conf like this, then we can see that our host tests, so again, these are the tests that Travis are going to run. So misc all test like here. So these are the contributed modules and the baseline configuration that Travis is going to use. So what we need to do here is add in our subset needless build conf, and this is going to add in our needless module to the end of our tests orgs Travis run. Now we know the order that Travis is going to print out the test results, because this is the order in which DAQ is going to run the tests. So if we have a look at our report, well, if we have a look first of all at the output that Travis is expecting. So this is the test output it's expecting, and it's first printing out all the results. So the first thing we need to do is we know or hope that we know. No, just kind of busking at this point. But we know that our needless module is going to be executed last. So these are all results Travis is going to compare against. So we're just going to put our results at the end here, and we're going to look at our last run, which you will find in the int folder. We're going to have a look at the report. And so these are the result lines. Essentially, that's what's going. So we're not going to look at the report. We're going to look at the result lines. So report run 1, we're going to look at result lines, and we're going to copy these two here into test orgs.out. Okay, so both of those passed, so we won't have any extra failures right here. We won't have any extra DHCP requests either. But the other thing that Travis compares is some module config modules, which is kind of tautology, I suppose. But we also need to add in to the test site module config. We need to tell Travis to enable our needless module. So let's do that. So if we go down to MISC test site, then we once again see a module config right here. So we can see here that only brute, pass, switch, and back ext are enabled. So I wonder where the extra module config is. Probably somewhere, but let's have a little look. Is there a base conf somewhere? Probably should be. Let's have a look in system all again. Base configuration, source, misc, system.com, there, base config. Aha! So our base configuration is misc module config underscore JSON. Module underscore config JSON. I apologize. So we have a look in misc module JSON there. Then we can see that these are all of the test modules that are enabled, essentially, in a long roundabout way for Travis. So if we just add on the bottom here, if we just add on a needless right there, then now our needless test is enabled for Travis. We've added a few lines to our test orgs.out here. We've added result pass, which is fine. We also need to add in needless onto the end of here because we want Travis to expect the needless module, so needless, to be run as well. So let's add these here as well. Not that, because that won't work. And then once again, so that's kind of a start to the test orgs.out. But we also need to change, so Travis also compares an expected report. So there's an out redacted docs, and we are copying the report from one of the testing faux containers that Travis is spinning up. And we are comparing that against a kind of a golden version of the device report, and that golden version there is docs device report. So we have a look at that device report right here, and this is the expected output that Travis is comparing against as well. So if you have a look at our current Travis runs, then we can see that we are comparing all of this stuff here. And this is our test logs out, and we are comparing testing test logs out with int test log. But also this up here, we've got a thing that says redacted docs diff, and there is no report diff. So that is a diff between this. The script is as it is. We are diffing basically our docs device report with whatever report has come out of our test run from the device 9A blah 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 01. Okay, so as you can see at the top, this docs device report, that is for device 9A 01, which is all very well and good. But this report does not feature anything from our new module yet. So that's what we need to do. So we've got a module ping, we've got a module mmap, so we're just going to add in. So thankfully we're running on the same faux containers that Travis has been running on. So we're just going to have a look in our ints folder again, file report, we're going to look at the report, and we're going to close all this down, just so we're not. So this is the report from our last run, and we're gonna compare that to this. So you can see that so this on the left here, the left is, so we got, operator, don't use engine, micro gun one, something silly. And on the right here, we have the report that Travis is going to use for its integration testing. And what we need to add is we've got some fail and other stuff, but we're just going to add these last lines here onto the end, and just kind of guess what's going on. And then right at the bottom, so this dummy, well, this report from this photo doesn't feature anything about our module needless, but our last run does, of course. So we're just going to copy and paste all of this, and we're going to paste it just there, below reports, well, above report complete. So what we're doing here is essentially exactly the same test as what this is describing at the end here. So we've run DAQ, but we've run it because we've just developed a test, we're just running it. And then there's some extra things to commit to GitHub. There's run testing, and there's copying files. But we're just copying our report from our last run to here. So this works in this case because my device report is for a faux device, which I was doing. So this integration testing workflow is more suited for the cases where one is writing a new test module and running on real devices with MAC addresses that aren't this, etc., etc. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to commit that. So we're going to say added integration testing output for test underscore needless module. Have I spelled module correctly? Yes, I have. And we are just going to push that up. And hopefully my network is there. Okay, so now we have something. We've got all of the starting factors so that Travis can actually compare the outputs from our needless test or needless test module to what's expected. So once again, we have test org.out, and we've added some extra result lines from our needless module. We've added something into our module config modules here. So we've got the needless module on the end of port 1 and port 2. The base configuration that the test site uses here is not this module config thing here. It is in fact the one that is MISC module config, which is this one. We've added our new module onto the end. And finally, we have added something else to the kind of golden device report, which is used. So we've added something to testorgs.out. We've added something to module MISC module config there, and we've added some extra result lines to first the table here, just on the end, and we've added an example output from a test run right on the end of our device report. And then we're just going to see kind of what happens, because it'll take Travis around, let's have a look, how long will that take? It'll take Travis around kind of, well, at least 36 minutes to complete a complete run, but it'll take Travis around 25 minutes to run our auxiliary test. And because I've set up Travis on my GitHub account, if I now refresh the commits page, you can see that Travis is running. So it's automated testing, and it's going, and we can monitor the logs as it goes. So I'm just going to pause again because this will take a bit of time, and we will see. Hopefully, well, this integration test will definitely fail because I've got some things very, very slightly wrong. But the reason I'm going through all of this from kind of first principles is just to fully go over how DAQ thinks about integration testing. So yeah, I'm just going to pause and we'll come back when this Travis run of test underscore orgs .sh has completed. As a mid-pause interlude, just wanted to clarify what I was just saying just there about if you're running a test on a real device and then just copying things over into the test logs out and the module config and the device report. So the idea of the integration tests is the integration test will always run against faux containers. They won't ever run against real devices because Travis can't connect to real devices unless you set up something cloud-based and incredibly not incredibly, but just something more convoluted than how the integration tests work at the moment. So I just want to say that if you're copying things over from a real test run, then you'll need to change the MAC address to match the golden device report here. Otherwise, your integration test will of course fail more than you're expecting it to. But you can copy out logs just to see if the comparison between the golden device report and what Travis produces is vaguely correct. So I just want to say that. So yes, in short recap, Travis will always run tests against faux devices. So the idea is, if we just go back to the start faux script, which I covered a very, very long time ago, all of the options for the faux device, for example, telnets, that enables a mock telnet server. Option backnet or backnet fail will start up a dummy testing backnet device. Same for there's a backnet cover, that's nice. Same for curl, same for brute. So anything that you want to test needs to be tested against some sort of what would you call it? It needs to be tested against something, some sort of dummy device. So, for example, of this DDoS attack, this horrible, inefficient DDoS attack that we're doing in this needless module. Ideally, you'd have something in your faux container which would say there might be another option here, which could be, options DDoS like this, and you would say starting DDoS protection, something like that. And I don't know, you could write yourself some sort of utility which would be DDoS protect, which doesn't exist, of course, but it would be something that, I don't know, detects multiple packets being sent from one IP address and then shuts down the ports to that IP address, or something similar to that. Okay, so go back into pause, or rather, so just so we can see that our test run is currently building something, which is all right. But we see that we've successfully included the build files from our subset needless test. So adding, let's just get rid of all that stuff and then not save it. So adding our needless module into the MISC all tests configuration here, that has worked. So that's just to show that that is a necessary step. How are we doing now? Doing some things, yeah. And so Travis has fired up DAQ successfully, and it's configured with our test needless. So let's just wait until that finishes. Okay, so we're back, and as expected, the orgs test has now failed, which is bad, of course, but it means in kind of optimistic pessimism that Travis has now picked up that we've tried to test the output, and there it is, the output of our. That's really quite long. We've tried to test the output of our needless module, and we've failed spectacularly. So let's just have a little look at what we're trying to compare. Okay, so here is the output of what happened during the run. So you can see that we've got the results kit from backnet version, we've got from network brew, we've got security, we've got passwords going on, we've got firmware, all as expected. But we would expect to see the output from our needless module. And there's something going on with that. So we've got the port config thing here, and we can see the port config has successfully picked up the needless thing here, and successfully picked up the needless enablement here as well. And in our report, there is a redacted docs diff. So if we just compare this to a passing run here, go to details. So this is the one that passed before, and we hadn't added anything to do with our needless module. If we scroll right to the end, doing that, it's just going to compare the output of our redacted docs diff in our failing run to our passing run. And let's stop scrolling. Thank you, jQuery. Okay. So here we can see that there is no report diff in our passing run, and in our failing run, there is very much a report diff. It's huge. So this bit here, which is what was actually in the golden report, well, it was actually in the outputs report, was a pass, needless, nothing, other, nothing. That's what actually happened. What we were expecting it to happen would be in this device report, and that would be down here. What we were expecting it to be, so what we told Travis to expect, was needless, nothing, other, nothing happened, and needless, script kiddie, silly Python scripts, other, the server's down, hooray. The difference between these things is that I didn't add the category properly in my configuration. So just looking at that, so this is just the output of a standard, Linux, Unix like diff command. I can just see that, okay, that's what Travis was expecting. I need to change that in my golden report. And also I can see that we added to the test orgs.out down here. I'll just check if I'm recording, which of course I am. We added to our test orgs.out file here. We added something like that here, and we'll come to why those aren't there. But we added our needless module right onto the end of this configuration here. And we can see that Travis is helpfully telling us that this is what it's expecting. So we got the ordering slightly wrong. And there's also this type conf stuff and whatever. So we can see that the needless module in our actual output is below Mac UI. So what we're going to do is we're just going to change the position of this needless module to under Mac UI there. Extra comma on the go, and the same for our port 21 down here. Under Mac UI, extra comma. Right, okay. So that's at least we've got that bit right now. It's kind of a back and forth process. I mean, for me anyway, it's kind of iterative. Travis fails and you change some code, or whether you change some output configuration, and then it kind of works. The main thing that we're missing in our Travis run are the result lines here. So we should see in our output. So the needless test has clearly run because we've got some results in our reports, and we've got some output because if there's only a left arrow, then there wouldn't be down here any right arrows. If there weren't any arrows here, then the needless test has run, needless though it may be. And that is for a difference which may or will become obvious very soon. Okay, so we made a change to the output, but we haven't got any result lines. The test has run, but where are the result lines? This is due to a little quirk of the test orgs script. So down here, there is the little bit which captures the test results of various modules. And to capture all test results, if we find that again, that refers to this. So we are getting the outputs from TMP report txt from all the ports. That's what we're doing. And we want it from a particular module name. And if we have a look at our last run, then we can see that in inst run port, let's just take one, for example, nodes module name here, we inject this in, so this is needless. There's a report.txt, and right at the bottom down here are, well, we're going to find in there using the fgrep command, we are going to find our result lines. We're going to find anything that starts with the capital results, and that should hopefully rip out these two lines here. So we did not add that down here, so that's why those result lines are not printing out at the end here. So if we just add another little line here, let's cover all, and we will change this to the needless module. And we also need to show the full logs. So we're just going to add this one in here as well. So after back ext, we are going to do the needless module here. And that's about all we need to do. That's kind of it. There's some different things for the cloud tests. And the other thing that we can notice here is that the IP address that we put in our golden report, we just copied and pasted the run. The IP address of our container at that point was 10.20.74.106, and that's what we put in our report. But due to the nature of DHCP, the dynamic nature of DHCP, when this faux container was spun up in Travis land, it got a different IP address, which is that's fine. That's kind of what we expect to happen. So one of the little features of test.org.h is that if anything, so this is the idea of this redact function. So it takes out, so this is some regex type stuff, but it takes out from our report here. It takes out any mention of the DAQ version, which is that bit there. It takes out the DAQ version. It takes out, I believe this is to do with the naming of, well, the report has a timestamp, and it may have a different MAC address, so we take out that as well. And I'm not going to try and decipher that. But if we put two percent signs before anything in our report, then it will be ignored in the Travis comparison. So what we need to do to implement that is change this thing here. So welcome back to our ddos.py. So we're printing out that we sent a packet to an IP address. What we need to do in order for Travis to ignore that IP address, because it's well, it's non-deterministic, effectively, we just need to put two percent signs before that thing there. So we're just going to go, so the port will always be the same because we're starting at port 80, so that we want to test that as well. And we're just going to put, I forget how to do percent signs in Python in print. What do you do? ASCII value of that is that. How to print percentage sign there, code speedy. I'm going to accept, thank you. Well, let's just put char 37. No. How to escape. Well, can we just, how to escape. No, it's like a strange interlude Python story as well. How to escape percent sign in Python. How can I selectively escape it? Thank you, Stack Overflow. Go straight to the answer. No sense. You just do 2% signs, as I thought. So we're just going to do that and put that there, and we're going to do a quick test of that subset. Needless. That's fine. That's there, and we're going to get the IP address of my website again, just so I can contain any issues which arise. There we go. Copy. Python 3 DDoS minus P80 minus AU. Yes, so there we go. Oh, that didn't quite work, did it? So, I wonder if that will work. Yes, so now, hopefully, DAQ should, well, Travis should ignore, what am I doing? Travis should ignore anything after those double percent signs. Okay, so the flow for this is check we've changed, and ooh, there we go. So yeah, it's always useful to check what you've changed before you commit stuff. And I forgot to remove this little thing of the DDoS, so we will get rid of that in start.fo because that isn't actually useful for us. We do need to implement this this redacting double percenting here. We've changed out to reorder where the needless comes in the config. To sort of H, we've added the capturing of the results, and we've added the printing, awesome stuff, just so we can see. And the next step is the next step in the iteration. So we're just going to commit that, and we're just going to say amended. Always give a a useful and meaningful commit message. We've amended the integration test output logs. Fingers crossed. Yes, I'm just going to commit that again. And once that has pushed, we will check that Travis is running. So we're going to get rid of a past one. There we go. So we can see, if we open a new tab, that Travis is once again firing up, and it's doing some stuff. So yeah, I won't go through how to make this integration test pass, because it's could be a long-winded process. Not in this case, but it could be. I just want to briefly touch upon the inconsistent flakiness of Travis. So test many passed, and that's fine. Test topological. Test passed as well. Test base failed. I didn't change anything at all to do with this test. So just having a quick look at what this test does. Testbase.sh, we same redact function going in there. And I believe this is testing some mud stuff, and it's testing the basic functionality of DAQ as a generalized test running framework. If you scroll to the bottom of why this has failed, so we can see we are installing DAQ effectively. That's all good, and then we are crashing out in a firing blaze of glory. And where has it failed? So we are simply building. What are we building? We're building something. It doesn't really matter. The point is that it failed because of something to do with Java dependencies. And it's failed because it could not resolve com.google code, that kind of thing there. It could not get resource, HTTPS, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I go to this in my browser, it's likely that that will. Well, I mean, I'm not Gradle, so but it's kind of here, All of this file exists. This isn't a 404. This isn't anything. So sometimes internal Travis networking can be flaky, especially if you don't pay for Travis, as I am not at the moment. You're put on some esoteric queue system, which I don't understand. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes if a test fails, and it's because of networking issues, if you I'm not sounding, but if you re-triggered this particular test here, that would probably run successfully in the future. Okay, so in the meantime, let's just check that Travis is fully running those tests, and it is. So if I waited another 25 minutes or so and found out why Travis was complaining that time, which I likely would, then I would change things and carry on. So that, in my view, is letting Travis do the heavy lifting in the context of integration testing. Okay,